Transforming minds. Johnny Crowder unveils the science behind building a better brain. Today, we speak with Johnny Crowder, the visionary behind Cope Notes, as he unravels the science of enhancing mental well being through innovative text based support. Discover the psychological principles that guide his mission to improve mental health globally, one text at a time. This conversation reveals how technology and resilience are pivotal in fostering healthier minds and creating lasting change in mental health. This isn't just an interview, it's a deep dive into the future of mental wellness with one of its most passionate advocators. Welcome to the Wellness Driven Life Show, where you're about to go on a wellness driven ride. Welcome to the Wellness Driven Life Show. Let me share a little bit about the incredible guests that we have with us today. Johnny Crowder is a suicide/abuse survivor, TEDx speaker, touring musician, certified peer recovery specialist, and the founder and CEO of Cope Notes. His text-based mental health platform provides daily support to users in nearly 100 countries worldwide. Armed with a decade of clinical treatment, a psychology degree from the University of Central Florida, and 10 plus years of peer support and public advocacy experience through the National Alliance on Mental Illness. Johnny's youthful vigor for mental health has impacted millions of lives across the globe. I am so pleased to help welcome to our stage today, Johnny Crowder. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I think you were an announcer in your past life, like a professional announcer. That was so good.
Oh, I love that. Thank you. That's such an honor for you to say that. Thank you. An honor for you to be here today. Johnny, you're doing incredible work out there worldwide. I am excited to talk a little bit about that and share with the audience all of the things that you bring. So let's get started by sharing a little bit more about you.
30 years and 30 seconds. I grew up with a bunch of different mental health conditions in an abusive environment. So I had some cards stacked against me. And then my response to all of this was to resist all help from anyone and everyone. I didn't want to talk about it, didn't want to learn about it. And then around high school, I actually started treatment, and I was kicking and screaming the whole way, by the way. And then I started taking psychology courses in high school that eventually led to me going to college to earn a psychology degree and then working in the behavioral health field. And now I run a mental health company and speak all over the world about mental health. So it's funny because when I was younger, you couldn't pay me to tell people that I was living with mental health conditions. And now people literally pay me to do that. So it's been a very interesting 180.
Well, I find it fascinating because oftentimes in life, the things that we go through, the biggest struggles, right, oftentimes can turn around and become the biggest passion to where we want to serve and give back to the world. And it's because of those experiences that we become basically an expert, right?
Yeah, I always tell people, like, whenever I speak at a conference and they'll have like a big thing behind me that says like Johnny Crowder, CRPS, and it's like founder and CEO of Cope Notes. I always tell you, like, don't get distracted by the letters after my name or by the CEO title. Like, that doesn't give me authority to speak on this. What does give me authority is living with the conditions day after day. Like, that's what helps me feel like a true expert in mental health. The fact that I went to school to learn about it is valuable, but I'm telling you, you have people in your life right now who aren't doctors, who are experts at going through the challenge that they're going through.
Mm. No kidding, right? It's really having, I often term boots on the ground. It's just that real life experience. It's the
Yeah.
fire hose to the face. And then we really learn how to navigate what's happening and going on and around us. And so what were some of the first experiences that you had that really shined light on knowing that this is something that you wanted to further investigate and learn more about what was happening to you?
So I will admit that part of it was curiosity. I wanted to learn more about mental health, but part of it was me wanting to prove my doctors wrong. Uh, I was like, "Oh, you don't know anything." Like, "Oh, schizophrenia, you probably don't even know the definition." Then so I go take these psychology courses and I find out that they are right. That everything that they were telling me about what I was going through matched up exactly with what was in my textbook. But then I started getting curious when I learned in high school that you could actually train your brain to think differently. That, like, the concept of neuroplasticity, the idea that the way your brain thinks now is not the way your brain will always think. I became obsessed with the idea that I wasn't stuck with the version of my brain that I had at the time forever. I pursued that liberation.
Hmm. That's huge. Because to me, the only constant is change. And I think the more that we are able to understand that, to have the awareness of that, it brings this beautiful light on possibilities and hope for our future because there is change, because our brains can literally change just like our bodies change, and healing is possible. So I think that that is incredible. And once you got to learn more and more and more, what were some of the tools and techniques that you started to apply in order to start changing your brain?
So for a long time, I used to think of mental health as like height. Like I'm not. Some days I'm not going to be 6'2", and some days I'm 6 foot. Like that is not how it's going to happen. Like I grow to a certain height, and then I'm that height every single day, probably to within like an eighth of an inch. I'm that height for decades. Like it's just the way it's going to be. And when I learned it was more like weight, where some days I'm 180 pounds, some days I'm 178 pounds, some days I'm 182 pounds. When I realized that I could fluctuate that way, and even some people drop 5 pounds or drop 10 pounds or gain 5 or 10 pounds. When I realized that there was more wiggle room, I started focusing on like, okay, if I know that my brain can change, what can I actively do to increase the likelihood that it will change in the right direction? So, for example, if I'm 180 pounds and I want to be 170, I'm not in love with the idea that my weight can fluctuate. I'm in love with the idea that my weight can go down. So I started thinking about all the different things I could do to prep my brain to change in the right direction. And one of the first things I started focusing on was stimulus. Like, what am I allowing inside of my brain and how frequently? So, for example, one thing that I did that I actually adhere to this day is I'll just pick a couple things. Number one, I don't watch horror movies because
Mm.
anyone watching this right now or listening to this who has schizophrenia probably knows what it feels like to hallucinate and to be afraid. So I think, what can I do to not exacerbate those symptoms? I won't watch horror movies. I won't watch scary things. And even I'm very careful with my words. For example, all my friends make fun of me because I have all these tattoos and I listen to death metal all the time, but I don't use curse words. So I'm very careful about like what goes in and what comes out.
That's so funny. And I agree. I'd probably laugh at you too as your friend for listening to death metal but not cursing
Yep.
with all the tattoos and everything. But you're absolutely right. I think that that's so important to really make sure what you're allowing in, and make sure you are conscious of what is being put out. Like, you don't use curse words, right? And so much of that is, it's kind of like our schedules, right? Time management. right? So many of us need to learn how to navigate that in order to accept what is going to benefit us, what's going to bring value to us, and to, push away the things that are not serving us. And it's not easy to do at first, especially if you're one of those people pleasers or you're empathetic, right? You want to be able to show up for everything and everyone. Entrepreneurship, that's a big lesson to learn, right? Because you want to say yes for everybody because you want all the business that you can possibly get, but yet the business isn't right for everyone. Not everybody is the perfect client. So having to learn what to say yes to, what to say no to is certainly an aspect of all of that.
Yeah, so first of all, I'm in a metal band called Prison. If you have Spotify and you're listening to this, please look up the song Energy by the band Prison. I literally wrote this song about that. There's a line in it that says, "If I have to save the world, then who saves me?" And the idea is that if you're saying yes to everything, if you want to be everything to everybody, you want to support all these people, and you wind up neglecting yourself in the process, you won't be there the next day to support those people that you care about. And I think I'm still actively working on my ability to say no. Like, for example, one thing that I do to try to protect my mental and emotional health and my bandwidth is if I know that I'm going to be somewhere that is loud and going to have a bunch of alcohol. Like if I go to a concert and I know there's going to be alcohol there, I don't drink. I don't like being around drunk people. It's not a comfortable environment for me. So I will purposely limit my exposure. I'll say maybe I'll show up a little late, shortly before the band that I want to see, and then I'll leave shortly after the band finishes so that I'm not in that environment too long. So sometimes it's learning to say yes or no, and sometimes it's learning to say yes with conditions and sticking to your conditions.
I love that. What I love most. Well, first off, tell me if I have the song and the band and everything
Yes,
spelled right, the platform correct. Okay,
correct.
awesome. So I want to make sure that everybody had a little bit of that Energy by Prison on Spotify. So it's on the screen. So I want to say, I think that it's brilliant where you don't put yourself into situations for extensive periods of time. Like you said, I either show up a little bit later or I'll leave a little bit earlier,
Yeah.
but you're not tempting yourself. And I think as human beings, obviously, as we know, it's so easy to be tempted. You start feeling good, everybody's happy, they're smiling, they're dancing, they're having fun, and you
Mhm.
want to be part of that naturally. And then things can become very on that slippery slope into things that you're doing that you don't need or want to be doing and participating in.
Yeah, I think the book Atomic Habits comes to mind. I think it's by James Clear, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And that book talks about identity, where we think that just adjusting the behavior is enough, but if we go deeper and say like right now I'm not tempted to drink because I say I'm not the type of person who drinks. I'm not a drinker. So I don't order drinks. So you're actually saying like, or if you're trying to make time to exercise in your workday, you say, well, I'm the type of person who exercises. I'm the type of person who makes time to exercise because I value my health. If you use that I'm the type of person phrase, it makes it easier to stick to the behaviors that you want to commit to because they're informed by your character and your identity first. So rather than focusing totally on the behavior and trying to rectify that, I try to focus on how do I become the type of person who naturally does the behaviors that I want to exhibit, you know?
Right. Yeah, it's an act as if.
Mhm.
And so I love that. It's not just a lot of it, it's how you speak to yourself. It's the specific wording, the way that it's phrased, and it's saying that you are already this person.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's a really beautiful thing. You're talking about belief systems, about identity. I would love to dive a little bit further into that because I feel so many of us, based on family beliefs, societal standards, etc., really gear up this internal identity of who we think we are. And when that's shaken up, it's like the whole world is shaken. And it's very difficult to think that you can become something else and become something different when you're dealing with an identity crisis. So, a lot of the tools that you bring in to really help change the brain is a huge piece to that on how people can actually get through an identity crisis.
Yeah, this is going to sound a little flippant, but it's something that I adhere to as often as possible. I've not played a lot of Dungeons and Dragons in my day, but in Dungeons and Dragons, I think there's something fundamentally different about Dungeons and Dragons than any other game. So let's say we play Monopoly. If we play Monopoly and I run out of money, I lose. Like you go bankrupt. The game is over, you're done. And I thought, I spent a lot of my life wanting to die, was suicidal. And I thought that because of the hand I was dealt, this is my lot in life, basically. And then the identity piece is interesting if you think about Monopoly, because it's like, oh, I'm the owner of Boardwalk, or I'm the owner of Park Place. But then with Dungeons and Dragons, you can actually create a character. You make up your character, and then that character can be killed. And then you can continue playing the game as a different character that you make up. I think there's something so liberating about the idea that you can play a game with your friends and die and create a whole new person. And I feel like that's what I had to do, was like, I was so frustrated with all of the challenges that I had faced, all of the illness, all of the abuse, all of the setbacks. And I wanted to make a new character for myself, because I used to think the solution was dying, like not playing the game at all. And then I'm like, no, I wonder if I can like make a new character with a backstory like my last character, where you overcame all these challenges, but one where like now my character isn't afraid of the things my last character was afraid of, or my current character believes that he can do things that my last character didn't believe he can do. So a lot of it is like just remembering that there's no rules. Like you can decide those things for yourself. I didn't believe that for the longest time.
Mm. No, we don't, because again, it's so much of, you know, those societal standards, just the common belief thread that we have where it's the day in and day out. And so I think that what I love about what you're saying is you're talking about like this gamification, right? What if we viewed life as that, where we can continuously reinvent ourselves? I don't know if you're familiar with Dr. Joe Dispenza's work. I'm a huge fan. And something that he mentions to the audience is that basically we're in like this virtual reality. And so, you know, it just play the game and reinvent yourself continuously. So that said, I would love to know, how often do you find yourself reinventing?
It's a good question. I don't do big overhauls often. I think the ones that I do are actually, I don't deserve credit for initiating them. They happen as a result of some kind of huge defeat or setback.
Mm.
Like when COVID happened and all of my tours were canceled, I was like a full-time touring musician, and then COVID happens and I didn't play a concert for a year and a half. So I was forced to redefine my identity, because I thought until then, well, I'm a touring musician. Like that's all I do. That's all the value that I can offer people. And then I was forced to re-examine myself and think like, well, that can't be all, because if that is all, then I might as well not be alive anymore, because I don't have anything else to do. My purpose has been stripped from me, and I felt like that. So it forced me to do a big overhaul. And now, rather than doing like one big overhaul periodically, I try to do a bunch of teeny tiny little adjustments. Kind of like, have you ever gone grocery shopping and uh maybe you spend $50 or $100 because you're stopping by and you're just going to get stuff for like this week or something, and then have you ever had your refrigerator break which I just had. I moved into a new apartment. The refrigerator broke like the week that I moved in, and I got home from a trip and I had to replace everything in the refrigerator, which cost hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars. Like all the stuff in the freezer went bad, all the stuff in the fridge went bad. And that was such a pain for me that I would rather do the $50 Walmart grocery store stop and shops than one big overhaul, just because I think it's less disruptive for me.
Very smart way to look at that. I love that. Where, I think that also when you shop more frequently, it's more fresh, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so there you're getting more fresh products for your body. And so I think that that's a really great way to put it, and a really great advice. It's kind of like these micro adjustments every now and again. And it's not as challenging or difficult. And I think that's one of the tricks to be able to hone in on when you're in a self-improvement mode. If you are a life learner, you're always wanted to take in bits and pieces of information to make those micro adjustments on a continuous basis.
Yeah, it's basically what my whole company is built on, is the idea that these small, and I didn't even realize that until you were just sharing it with me. And I'm like, yeah, I guess that's my whole approach to life, is like,
Yeah.
why do this one huge thing? Like, why eat 3.5 pounds of green beans every Friday when you could eat just a little bit of vegetables with dinner every night? Like, just for, it's the type of person I am. I would rather not, like, it's the same way I clean my apartment. Like, I'll vacuum it, spot vacuum it here and there. I'll do laundry every once in a while instead of letting it pile up. And I think the whole idea behind Cope Notes is that if it feels intimidating to save it all for one big therapy session or one big like 4-hour conversation with your spouse where you like let it all build up and then you let it all spill out, why not take 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds here and there while you're sitting at a stoplight or brushing your teeth? And hopefully all of those will help you retain the momentum necessary for you to not have those big breakdowns.
Johnny, you have this beautiful way of integrating those small micro habits, those little bits of information, planting the nuggets, right, or the seed with how you present text messaging to your audience, in such a lovely way. Now we're going to go into our commercial, and when we get back, let's talk about the idea of how long it takes for the brain to start making some changes. So stay tuned. Are you ready to take control of your ride to wellness? Rev up with Driven Living. Visit www.drivenliving.com and buckle up for a journey. Get exclusive access to our Wellness Driven Life Show guest portal, where you can dive deep into the minds of our esteemed guests. Sign up for our newsletter and get insider scoops on these distinguished personalities. It's like having a backstage pass to their life-changing wisdom. But that's not all. You'll also receive a free hug. You heard me right, a free hug. An enlightening ebook from the Driven Living team. Discover the science-backed benefits of hugging yourself. It's a fill-up for your wellness tank. Because at Driven Living, we believe in fueling your journey to wellness, both physically and psychologically. So what are you waiting for? Visit www.drivenliving.com today. Welcome back, everyone, here with Johnny Crowder today. Now, Johnny, we're talking about changing our brain for the better. And you have incredible ways to do that you're sharing that with the world. Let's talk a little bit now about how long it takes to actually change our brains, and how do we do it?
Yes, I'm reminded of this quote by Timothy Keller, who's a pastor in New York. He just passed away recently, and he had this quote that was something like, most people think it's the big things in your life that change the trajectory of who you become, your character, your personality. And he said, think about it though, if your life, I'm talking if your life is really interesting, action packed, there's probably only like a dozen of those moments in your life that like completely change everything. So he was asserting that it's actually like the 60,000 micro interactions per day that are stronger determinants of who you become, like the all of the tiny moments between those big paradigm shifts that control how you react when the paradigm does shift. And I remember at the first time that I heard that, I thought, wait, but doesn't it take like 21 days to develop a habit or something like that? And I started doing research and discovered that it can actually take 254 consecutive days for a new habit to feel natural. That means you
Mm,
are defaulting to it.
right.
And I really, something that stuck with me was it's consistency that's the key. Like I've used so many different examples, but I mean, toothbrushing is a great one. It's if you brush your teeth a little bit here and there, it doesn't really become a habit. But if you brush your teeth every morning and every night consistently, not just for a couple weeks, but I mean weeks and months and years, now you get into bed and you've conditioned yourself to think, I need to, you know what? I wasn't going to brush my teeth because I was too tired. I'm going to get up and go brush them. And we can do that with all sorts of habits. But I think there's a big disconnect between what we're looking for from therapists, from our spouses, from a book that we read where we're like, man, I read that book. How come I don't feel better? And it's like, dude, it takes time for your brain's synapses to rearrange themselves. It takes time.
Yeah, it does take time. Well, when you came upon that realization, what were some of the things that you wanted to work on the most that you started implementing that consistency with?
So I it's so funny. I bet all the people who knew me in high school don't think that I'm faking this my whole life now. Because when I was in high school, I middle and high school and even into college, I was a very negative person. I had a temper, I had some anger issues. Um, if you put me in a room, I could find the one thing wrong with it. I was so critical. I would always focus on the negative. And I realized how much it was limiting me. I read a few books. One was called The Winning Attitude by John Maxwell, and one was called Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude. And I feel bad for the author because I cannot remember the author's name right now. But those two books helped me understand that my negativity was actually standing in the way of me making the progress that I wanted to make. So I tried to work on being positive, which felt so corny and strange and unnatural. But what I
Unauthentic.
started doing, yes, what I
Yeah.
started doing was my a good friend of mine, Kim Jones, bought me a gratitude journal, and I'm like, "What a hunk of junk! I'm gonna throw this away." And it collected dust forever. And then she was like, "Just write one thing a night." And I was like, I'd get in bed at night and get out my journal, and I'm like, I can't think of one good thing that happened today. Today sucked. And then eventually, begrudgingly, I got to like 3 things a night, 5 things a night. And now I've done 10 things a night every single night for like 5 or 6 years. I actually have my gratitude checklist tattooed on my forearm right there. So you can see a
Oh,
bunch
here,
of tally marks.
let me get you in solo layout. There you go.
Yeah. So this is my gratitude checklist. I literally do it
Wow.
every single day, multiple times per day. And it has really helped me focus on the multitude of good things. Like at any moment, I could rattle off 10 things that I'm thankful for at the drop of a hat. And before it would probably take me a week and a half to come up with 10 things.
Yeah. No, now it's just coming all the time. You
Yeah.
look around you and you're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm grateful for this and grateful for that." Now, uh, being grateful is one of the key things that you hear and learn about in, like, every single self-development
Yeah.
word out there, right? Gratitude is always there. There's I mean, it's just the foundation for really creating a a life that is so much better. We feel better when we're gratitude. There's so much science to back that now.
Mhm.
So you started with gratitude.
It was one of the very first things I worked on, and then also changing what I turned to when I lost my temper. So I used to be
Mm.
the type of guy who would punch a hole through the wall or slam doors or raise my voice or throw things. And unfortunately, that's just kind of like it was the environment I grew up in. I was around a lot of like guys, like masculine men. It's like that's how you express anger is you raise your voice and you punch stuff and you throw stuff. And so I'd learned all of these maladaptive coping mechanisms. And then I started playing guitar more seriously, like middle and high school is when I really started dedicating more time to it. And I got to a point in high school where if I could feel myself getting angry, and you can tell, like a lot of people with anger issues, if you ask them, like, can you tell when you're about to lose your temper? You can tell. You like know the signs. Like my ears would get hot.
Hot.
My like, dude, I would feel this feeling in my back. Like it was just, I could feel something coming on. And what I started doing was excusing myself and going to put headphones in to listen to a song or pick up my guitar and play a little bit. So I think it was a balance of like choosing things to focus on that would help me focus on the positive and build gratitude into my daily thought habit. But also when I slipped out of that positivity and I became angry or depressed or something, I wanted to turn to something that wasn't destructive. I wanted to turn to something that was a little bit healthier, and music was that thing for me.
Yeah, music is so powerful. I say it's the bridge to the soul. And yes, you are absolutely redirecting yourself. And Johnny, I had a little bit of a temper when I was younger too. And you know what worked for me was going into the law enforcement career field. I had to have a hold on my temper because
Yeah.
now I am leading by example.
Mm.
And you turn around very quickly too when you start to see those sort of habits in others, and it's not attractive, and you realize that some of the ways that you've acted in the past is probably not very attractive either, and so it certainly helps shift you. And it's kind of like once taught, twice learned. When you have to step into a leadership position or you become passionate about something and you want to start leading others to really learning how to live better, to be better, then in turn, you start to do that for yourself.
Yeah, and I also have like pretty strict standards with that now. It's funny, like if someone raises their voice at me, I'm like, I proverbially, it's like the equivalent of Xing out of a window on your computer. I'm just like, nope. And I leave, and I will not have a professional or personal relationship with someone who raises their voice or speaks to me in a certain way or anything or
Mm,
throws something. I will exit permanently. And it is
yeah.
like a self-protective thing where before I was like, that's just how people deal with things. And now I'm like, I've worked so hard in my recovery to be the person I am today that anyone or anything that compromises that is not worth it. So I am quick to excuse myself. It's so funny. Like I used to think, well, if someone is behaving like that, I'm just stuck here because it would be socially weird to leave. And now I'm like, the moment something like that happens, I leave. I do not return.
You know what I love about that is uh, you have given yourself a gift of boundaries, and you're true to that. And not many people are or can do that, or it
Hmm.
takes a long time to really get there. I talked a little bit about navigating our time as an entrepreneur, saying yes to certain meetings and saying no to others, where we can't get to where we want to be if we continue to stay around those people, things, places, energies, etc. I mean, it's impossible. So it's not cold. And I somebody once asked me if I thought that that was cold by not having certain people in life, and it said absolutely not. It's because the higher we can raise our vibrations and do the best for ourselves, that really is the greatest gift I believe that we can do for ourselves and the world around us.
Yeah, I used to think that I needed permission from people to excuse myself. And I think maybe there are people on this call who think that. And as a result, they are, or on this like listening, who think that. And they're like stuck in these situations that are not making them healthier, that are not supporting them in their desire to build a better life. And I just want to empower whoever's listening. Like, you don't need to wait for anybody's permission to leave. Like, if you have a boss who speaks condescendingly to you, quit. Like, if you have a partner that does not know how to respect your physical boundaries, leave them. Like, I just can't believe that nobody teaches us that we have that autonomy and we can just choose to exit an environment that's not healthy for us. At any moment, we can choose to get up and leave.
I love that you say that. And it's very, very empowering. And so thank you so much for sharing that. I think that it's wonderful to be able to give yourself that grace and permission to, just for yourself, and to do something that may seem a little extreme, but ultimately it is the greatest gift for yourself. So, Johnny, that's incredible. Let's talk a little bit about your business, about Cope Notes. What is it? What does it do for people? How is it in service?
So, an easy way to think about what we do is we send one text per day to your phone, but you never know when we will text you or what the text will say. And the message is written by someone with firsthand lived experience with whatever they're texting you about. So, if you get a text that contains a stress relief technique, it's written by someone who actually used that technique to alleviate their own stress. And these messages contain psychology facts or journaling prompts, exercises, all things designed to interrupt your automatic negative thought and train your brain to form new neural pathways associated with coping skills and resilience and positive thought. So it's kind of like a positive psychology and peer support and brain training resource that will actually change the way you think.
I like that it really gives the essence of surprise because it's at different times and you
Yes.
never know what it's going to say, and it's about different things, but all for the betterment of yourself. And also it really gives that essence of community, of being together, being one, when you know that it's coming directly from a source that has implemented the techniques themselves. And it just makes you feel like you're not alone. So you're really bringing a lot of things into this, which something that seems so simple, but yet there's a lot of detail in that where it creates something that's very meaningful and very valuable. So all of that, and I know you've been doing this for a little while. I know that you've had a lot of feedback from it, a lot of success stories, a lot of tearjerkers. So I would love to know if you would share with us a couple, or maybe even just one, a success story or a tearjerker with us of how this has really changed somebody's life.
Yeah, I have. So there are a whole bunch of stories that come to mind. One, which is one of my favorites, that I was just thinking about early today. So I'll share this. I was on tour with my band in Baltimore, and this couple, older couple, came to the show with a cooler, and they opened the cooler. And I'm not joking. Can you change the video so I can see your face when I tell you this?
Yes, you.
Okay, because this is a weird plot twist. This couple comes to the show, they have a cooler, they open up the cooler, there is a gigantic tray of lasagna and a gallon of chocolate milk
Lasagna and chocolate
in
milk.
this cooler.
Oh,
And I was like,
I don't
what on
know.
earth is happening? And how do you know that lasagna is one of my favorite foods and chocolate milk is one of my favorite drinks? And the guy was like, yeah, don't worry about it. Hope you enjoy it. And I was like, this is so strange. What's the story? So he walks away. And then his wife walks up to me and says, he won't admit it to you. He won't be the one to tell you this, but Cope Notes is the only reason we're still married. It has
Wow.
dramatically improved his mental and emotional health. It helped him out of some seriously unhealthy patterns. It's helped our communication. It's helped our relationship. and we just wanted to bring you something to thank you. And we thought, why don't we make a big tray of lasagna? Because we heard you say in a keynote years ago that you loved lasagna. And we heard you say that instead of drinking alcohol, you drink chocolate milk. So it was like this, because Cope Notes is anonymous. So we serve tens of thousands of people all over the world, like almost 100 countries around the world. So I don't get to hear a lot of these stories personally because it's anonymous.
Yeah.
So when I get to meet someone in person, they share that with me like I'm standing 3 feet away from them and they're sharing that with me. I can't explain how that feels to know that the thing I built is bringing healing to the lives of people that I've never met.
Oh, that's so cool. And they are showing you so much, so lovingly by gifting you things that they know you're going to love, and sharing with you that this has made such a massive impact in their lives.
Yeah.
And how cool is that? So what have you had any people that have also in turn started to give back to the world based on your influence?
Yeah, that's really cool too. It's the reason why I emailed my therapist from high school and told her all about like I've given a couple TED Talks and I run a company now and it's only because you helped me. So I do my best to try to like tell others when they've influenced me, and I really appreciate it when people do the same to me. Like I've had people say like, well, now I started publishing a gratitude journal every day, or I started making a selfie video of me talking about my Cope Notes message and sharing it on social media with people. And then I get messages from people saying how much that what I said, not me, but what they said on social media is actually helping the people that follow them. So that stuff is really cool. But I think what really sticks to me is like as a kid who grew up in an abusive environment, what really sticks with me is when people say they're changing the way they're parenting, like they
Mm.
are. Um, I know people who have stopped drinking or smoking or using drugs because they're like, I have a family and I know they see what I do and I want to be a good example. I know people who have like started going to therapy and they're like, I want my kids to see that it doesn't make me any less of a man to go to therapy, and I want my son to see that. Like that to me, the family dynamic, ooh, that's so powerful.
Uh, yeah, that hits my heart too. It just trickles down. It just trickles down. I like to say that one of my biggest parent advices is to truly lead by example. And it is just that, the again, the more work that we do for ourselves to improve ourselves is being the example. And it just continues to trickle out and down, and it's
Yeah.
a really beautiful thing. So you've done this. Is there anything that you are very super excited about, the things that you're creating for the future?
I am about to announce the biggest Cope Notes partnership ever. It's our biggest contract. It's our biggest opportunity to serve. I am over the moon excited about it. I've been waiting since last year, not a full year, but almost a full year to announce it any day now. Like maybe by the time someone watches this, it's already public, but I am waiting very patiently to announce a project that will impact a lot of people, community that I really care about. And really, that's our focus this year is like trying to hire more people who can help us help more people.
Mm. Oh, that's exciting. Well, now I'm gonna have to stay tuned. And
Oh, and
that
also, you know
yes.
what? I should also share this because this is actually public already. And sorry, I keep moving back, but you can see the sun is
Oh, the
creeping up on
light.
me. Um, I we just launched a couple partnerships with public school districts. So if
Ah,
you have a student, middle or high school student, if you're a parent and you have a middle or high school student, please ask your school, your child's school, if they have free Cope Note subscriptions available to them because they might. And if not, email me or fill out the contact form on our website or connect us with someone at the school district to get that support into the hands of your son or daughter for free, because that to me is so exciting. Like as someone who almost didn't survive past my teen years, I'm so excited about these public school partnerships and the difference that it will make in these kids' lives.
That's massive. That in and of itself is just massive. I think that's incredible. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, that said, I want to make sure that we're going to be able to hear about this announcement that is coming up because I'm excited. I can see that with your excitement. So, www.copenotes.com, I've had it displayed here on the screen for those of you watching in. For those of you listening in, again, it's www.copenotes.com. Easy peasy. It's in the description below. Johnny, it has been incredible to have you on the Wellness Driven Life Show. Is there anything else you want to share with our audience today?
I'll shamelessly plug. I have a couple TED Talks that if you want to hear more about my experiences growing up with mental illness or the things that I learned in school, anything like that, if you search my name on YouTube, Johnny Crowder, you should find I have 2 different talks on there. I'm also on social media at Johnny Crowder Loves You on Instagram is the one that I use quite a bit. And then I'm on LinkedIn, so please connect with me there. And then the last thing I'll say is if there's an opportunity for me to come to serve you in person, I love travel. I mean, I toured in a band for many, many years. I love going to different cities and working with people in person. So if there's an opportunity for me to literally fly to whatever city you are in to serve your public school district, the company that you work at, the nonprofit you volunteer for, anything like that, speaking or training, please go to johnnycrowder.com. There's a contact form in there. Please fill it out. I would love to come meet you and serve you in person.
And if you've been listening to this whole thing, you're going to want him there because Johnny, you're incredible. Thank you so much for enlightening us here today. You truly are making this incredible difference in the world. I love the way that you have navigated it. It's very simplistic, yet it's very touching. It's very personable. So you are very much making a difference. And again, I'm really looking forward to this announcement. So make sure that you follow him on the website. Again, you can find it in the description below. And Johnny, it's been amazing having you on the Wellness Driven Life Show.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And thank you so much for our audience for tuning in because without you, the show wouldn't be possible. So goodbye for now, and we will see you next time.